'Tis the season of protests in Canada. It is the weekend, and you have these pro-Palestine, anti-Israel, pro-Hamas, whatever you want to call them, protests that are breaking out across Canada, like literally everywhere. It's not just in Toronto. It's not just on Capitol Hill in Ottawa. It is everywhere at universities, everywhere. And they're also breaking out in America. There's a lot of shit happening, and it's not looking good, especially for our government. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you guys to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. We are very close to 400,000 subscribers, and I would really appreciate it if we get there sooner than later. And before we get into today's video, I have a special message from today's sponsor with an awesome package for you guys. I want to thank today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. We have teamed up together, and they are willing to offer my audience 83% off by using code SUNSHINE, which can be found linked down in the description or the pinned comment below. There is a massive amount of censorship that's happening around the world, and Justin Trudeau is taking it into his own hands, which is why you need to protect yourself with a VPN. Now, what a VPN does is it encrypts your personal information so that when you're browsing on different websites, your info isn't shared. It's almost a way of putting a cloak over yourself, and the favorite way that I go about doing this is with Private Internet Access. Even when it comes to simple things like getting the right information from the news, there is massive amounts of censorship happening. And the only way that you can really get an unbiased opinion is with a VPN. But above and beyond that, if you want to get different shows and movies on different platforms such as Netflix or Disney, and there's these geolocation restrictions, the only really way around that is with a VPN such as Private Internet Access. Not only can you do that from a computer or a tablet, but you can also do that from your phone, which is why Private Internet Access is the best way that I like to go about it. It's user-friendly, it's very affordable, and it's a best way of saying F you to the government. Once again, the link for Private Internet Access and code SUNSHINE is linked down in the description or the pinned comment below. And just remember, the government doesn't want you to hide your identity, but you should take the matter into your hands. And that's why Private Internet Access and I have teamed up to offer you guys 83% off. Thank you, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring today's video. All right, so let's take a look at the polls. You have the Conservatives still sitting at 207 projected seats. They need 172 for a majority. Bottom line of 176, top end of 231. I still stand by my claim in the past that I do think that as we get closer to the summer break, I believe that's in June, you're going to start to see the projected seats of 207 start to climb back up to maybe 215, 220. Odds winning the most seats, Conservatives still at 99, 98% of a majority government, 2% of a minority government. So it's looking great, and the Liberals are still very suppressed with 1%, 1%, 1%, and NDP just, they come and go off the board at 1% to no percent. So it's really seeming like you're going to have a blue wave, essentially. You're going to have a conservative stronghold across the country, and it's like 98% likely that they're going to win, not just win, but a majority government. So now let's take a look at some of these protests and clips that are happening across Canada here, because it's getting out of control. It's really, really getting out of control. The government has already deemed these protests as not racist protests, but anti-Semitic protests. They're not good. They're talking about hate speech. They're glorifying what happened on October 7th, yet they're still allowed to happen, especially on Capitol Hill. So kind of weird. But first, we have a video of Justin Trudeau, who just the other week or the other day started off Earth Day by rolling up to the office with a bunch of gas-guzzling SUVs. It's just funny to start off with a hypocritical video of Justin Trudeau. There's so many. There's so many.
Today is Earth Day, and look, here comes Justin Trudeau, heading to the office. Justin Trudeau rolling up. The perfect way to celebrate Earth Day, by rolling up to the office with a bunch of gas-guzzling SUVs.
Oh, jeez. So here's a key thing. You got a woman getting out of the driver or the passenger side.
Thumbs up if you're a hypocrite.
And opening the door for Justin Trudeau. I love it. I love it. It's awesome. He gets the door opened up for him by a woman or a person's with a vagina. You actually can't say woman here in Canada. Apparently, it's like a new rule that is coming out. I don't know. It's very bizarre. Now let's take a look at some more footage here of what's going on. You've got, of course, I don't know much about this, but you just have this really weird thing that's happening. Another church in Canada is burning to the ground, and not one politician says a word about it. This one is in Nova Scotia. Apparently, this has been going on for a while in Canada, where you have churches that are being burnt down to the ground, and they are not being covered. They're not getting the same media coverage or mentions from politicians. This is like rather new information to me, but it's really sad that you're seeing that. And I do understand the attack on, not just white people, but Christians in North America. It seems to be one-sided. It's very bizarre. Anyways, let's get into some of this protest footage here. Long live October 7th. That can't be anti-Semitic. There's no way. Last week in Ottawa, we had people openly celebrating the October 7th Hamas terrorist attacks on Israel. This week it's happening in Vancouver. Justin Trudeau, are you going to address this issue with more than empty words?
We demand a free Palestine from the river to the sea. And that we stand with the Palestinian resistance and their heroic and brave action on October 7th. And they said, long live October 7th. And we say today, long live October 7th. Long live October 7th.
That just seems wrong. Look, I don't want to comment too much on things that I'm not fully aware of. And this is like very weird territory, because you got to tread somewhat lightly when you're talking about this stuff. But it just seems wrong glorifying what happened on October 7th. It's been deemed by most of the world as acts of terror, like terrorist acts. And then you have people that are out in the streets here in Canada that are saying, yay, we support what happened. We support those terrorist attacks. It's freaking weird, man. Like, what country are we living in? When have you ever been able to publicly, openly glorify any acts of terrorism in Canada? Like, am I missing something? Is there some information that I'm just not aware of? Is this going over my head in some way? But please let me know down in the comments if this is very bizarre and weird, or just let me know, rather, how you feel about this. Are you pro these protests, or do you think that it's kind of wrong? Please let me know. Let's have a conversation down in the comments here. Later that day, Deanna Sheriff was part of a demonstration that blocked the front of Sir John A. Macdonald building on Wellington Street, where Justin Trudeau was attending an event. You got some more pro-Palestinian protests here.
So we are here at the Sir John A. Macdonald building, across from the House of Commons. Palestinian protesters have blocked the entrance to the Sir John A. Macdonald building here in Ottawa. Also blocking.
I mean, imagine if this was the freedom community, if this was, people waving Canadian flags that were doing this and glorifying some act of terrorism. I think that the police would crack down. I mean, for crying out loud, they did, man. The police came out, they beat the crap out of Canadian citizens, Canadian-loving, freedom-loving citizens for having bouncy castles and playing hockey in the streets and bringing their family and friends to, like, not to glorify anything wrong, but to just stand up and advocate for freedom peacefully here in Canada. It just seems like there's a massive double standard. And then you add in these clips where people have like these smoke grenades and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. This doesn't seem like Canada. It doesn't seem like Canada. And I'm all for the freedom, to express yourself and to protest. But it just seems like, if we, you or I or anyone went to go and wave a Canadian flag down in this exact area and protest a carbon tax or anything like that, and you had, red and white smoke grenades, the way that these people have smoke grenades, right? The way that their protest groups have smoke grenades, I feel like there would be repercussions, massive repercussions. That's called a bias.
I'll just translate this chant. It means, although our martyrs rest in peace, and we will continue the struggle. Yes,
touch me. Do not touch me.
Look, I'm all for protests. Like I think it's awesome. I think that we live in a country that, you know, historically has allowed protests to happen without, you know, the abuse or interjection of police or authorities, until it happened, you know, in 2022, where the whole world got to see just the most horrific abuse of power that Canada has almost ever seen. But what I don't understand, and maybe it's a lack of education, maybe I'm naive, maybe it is allowed, and I'm not clued into this, but it's the smoke grenades and the things that are brought to these protests that are not really allowed at other protests. Like, why are they allowed smoke grenades here? Like, it's an F. Trudeau protest. Don't get me wrong. They're calling for Trudeau, how he's complicit in the genocide of Palestinians. Any protest that involves F. Trudeau, any protest at all, let's go, man. I think the more people that shit on Justin Trudeau publicly, that express their detest or their concern for Justin Trudeau, I think that's awesome. I think that being allowed in Canada is even more awesome. But it's the double standard of all of the other things that are involved with the protests, right? Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe somebody down in the comments can educate me, but let's have a conversation down there in the comments, because I'm not understanding the legalities and the really big bias of not only the media, right, that are covering or not covering these protests, but the smoke grenades and stuff like that. It just seems odd. That's all. People, man. I gotta say that these protests, I feel like, are growing in numbers, and we're going to take a look at how it's kind of spread across Canada. But I do want to acknowledge too, like, you know, these protests are happening on both sides of those that are involved in this conflict, in the war, right? Palestinian protests like this have erupted everywhere across the world, but everywhere across Canada as well, which is what we're going to be focusing on today. I haven't really seen that many Israeli protests that are saying, you know, we need to keep Israel X, Y, and Z. And if there have been, I don't think it's even been close to this amount of numbers. So I don't know if that means anything, but it does show that there's a lot of support for a lot of people willing to show up and support these Palestinian protests. And they're not just called Palestinian protests; they're actually being referred to as anti-Israel demonstrations. And this, again, is more footage by Chris Dacey Media on X. I'd highly recommend to go follow him if you have an X account. It seems like, and I've been looking at the comments before we watch this clip, I see the comments on every time I post a video like this. A lot of people don't like these protests down in the comments. Now, I don't want to put words in your mouth as a viewer, but it does seem like there is a lot of backlash from these protests. A lot of people just aren't fans of them. I think that they agree that there is a double standard with the media and with how the government is handling this. And I just kind of want to reiterate the question, how do you feel about these protests? I mean, they're happening every single weekend right here, every single weekend. It's a similar angle. The AC media is doing a great job of capturing it and showing up every single time. But it really does seem like there is something fishy going on with all this.
Large crowd coming up to the Prime Minister's office now. Wellington Street, the Prime Minister's office. This is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's office. This is Justin Trudeau's office. Justin Trudeau's office.
Out of any protest that's happened in Canada, I feel like this is the most consistent protest in terms of just sheer numbers that are showing up. In Ottawa, police, they've actually come out and they've made statements about this. Our hate and bias crime unit is investigating an allegation of hate speech during a demonstration on Saturday afternoon downtown. Anyone with information is asked to contact the unit at this number, and that is in reference to, some of these demonstrations here. And this is all glorifying the attacks on October 7th, which is just really hard to wrap your head around. And now let's take a look at some footage that isn't actually happening in Ottawa, but it's happening in other places, such as Montreal, Quebec. You have McGill University students join the global uprising for a free Palestine. The university encampment protests against Israeli genocide are spreading like wildfire worldwide. This has 500,000 views, folks, on X.
Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Gaza!
Wild. And that is not the only footage we have. That's them setting up their camp.
We want justice, you say how? We want justice, you say how? Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! What do we want? Justice! I can't hear you! What do we want? Justice! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? No! When do we want it? No!
And we have one more clip of the university here. It's time for Muslim prayer at McGill's new outdoor mosque. Yeah, there you go. So let's take a look at this. Canada's always been a pretty diverse country. In fact, I think one of our mottos or our culture is quite literally identified as multiculturalism. So Canada's identity is many, many identities. And you're certainly starting to see that now more than ever. We've always had progressive immigration policies. We've always had a diverse culture, especially in, more of the populated areas like Toronto, Vancouver, maybe Calgary, Quebec. Well, not all of Quebec, but Montreal, like where there's the major international airports, the major cities, right, across Canada. But now it seems like it's picked up a lot of steam in ways that people are maybe not fully understanding how crazy things are getting. I mean, that's interesting to see Muslim prayer railroads like on university campuses and Palestinian protests or anti-Israel protests, however you want to look at it, happening on university campuses, where I believe it's in the policies that you can't bring politics to school. Like university is like a politics-free zone, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. And I'd like to pass the question off to you guys. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about the state of Canada, with everything that's going on, all of these protests, the obvious bias that's going on, and our multiculturalism? Love to know what you guys think down below. That's it, folks. On your way out, I would like to encourage you guys to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already, and one last thank you to Private Internet Access for sponsoring today's video. I will see you all in the next one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now.